Steve, good morning. We'll talk big picture about the tariffs, but let's put on your car czar hat and the Obama administration first. Clearly, something has to give. If you have a 25% tariff, you're an American auto manufacturer. We saw that some of the companies saying they'll lose between $2.5 and $5 billion. But when do consumers start to feel this?
You know, the irony of this, of course, is that a good part of why Trump was in favor of tariffs, his legitimacy for tariffs, was to help the auto industry and to bring car manufacturing back here. And I suspect some viewers, anyway, scratched their heads during this process when the auto companies kept saying, you know, we don't want these tariffs, we don't want these tariffs. Why do they not want these tariffs? Because they actually import a lot of their cars, GM and Chrysler, from Mexico and from other places where manufacturing is less expensive. So now you have the tariffs. And what is happening so far is the companies are absorbing most of it. So contrary to what Trump says, that the Mexicans are going to pay the tariffs or the Canadians are going to pay the tariffs, right now it's been the car companies that are paying the tariffs. And it's cutting, as your correspondent just said, very substantially into their profits. So that's the irony of all this, that it's actually being paid by the very people that Trump is trying to help.
Which is what they said all along, and now here we are, and it's happening. Let's go back to the Japanese trade deal announced yesterday. 15% tariffs. He says that Japan's going to invest hundreds of billions of dollars to great profit of the United States. Help us sift through what's real in that deal and what's sort of fantasy about it.
Let me, by the way, I didn't answer all your question. In terms of American consumers, the companies are saying that pretty soon they're going to have to start raising prices. They can't keep absorbing it. But back to your other question. So, look, first of all, it's classic Trump sort of negotiating style. You threaten something high. This isn't as high as some of the things he's threatened, but 24%. Then you do a deal at a lower percentage, and everybody says, oh, that's great. He backed off a bit, and we got something more reasonable. But the 500 or 550 billion, I've seen different numbers, of investment in the U.S., I don't understand that at all. Maybe there'll be some investment, but the idea that we, America, are somehow going to get 90% of the profits is a concept in business I have never heard. And so who knows what he's talking about. But the Japanese are certainly happy. The stock market was up 3.5% overnight. Toyota stock was way up overnight. This does help them, and we've been fighting this fight, as you know, because Trump himself was involved for 40 years over Japanese car imports, and now it's landed in a place that both sides seem to be able to deal with.
So, Steve, let's take a step back. We didn't get the 90 trade deals in 90 days that the administration promised, but after some delay, we're getting some progress now. Japan, yes. Also, he met with the leader of the Philippines yesterday, announced a deal coming there as well. Recently said there's one from Vietnam, although the Vietnamese government hasn't signed off on apparently all of it. Just give us your big picture take right now, the progress that the administration is or is not making on these deals, and what sort of impact will that have for the consumers here?
It's a little hard to know exactly what progress, because he announces deals, and then like the Vietnamese deal, it turns out there really isn't a complete deal done. Normally, it takes a year or two to negotiate any single trade deal. They can sometimes run hundreds of pages of documents over every little piece of it. He's faced with a self-imposed deadline that it'll be interesting to see how he wriggles around, which is that all these tariffs that have been suspended have to go into effect on August 1st if these rest of these 90 deals aren't made, and they're obviously not going to be made in a week. So we're going to have to see what he does about that. So far, the impact on consumers has been fairly muted, one has to say. The companies have been, all these companies, not just auto companies, have been absorbing a lot of these costs. Most of the tariffs have been suspended now while we go through this process. And so once August 1st hits, if he actually does what he says he's going to do, which, of course, you never know if that's what's going to happen, you could start to see prices go up reasonably meaningfully.
So, Steve, on that point, say there's a ship out there somewhere carrying a bunch of Toyotas from Japan to the United States to Long Beach, California. August 1st rolls around, 15% tariff down from 25% to 15%. That kicks in. What's that going to cost the American consumer? Because the car companies, as you indicated, they're not going to cover it for very long. What's going to happen to the American consumer in purchasing a car?
You're going to see prices go up. I mean, if you take a very rough rule of thumb about products in general, probably something like half the cost of retail costs of a product is the cost of actually the product coming into our country. The rest is sales and distribution and all the other things that go on. So if there's a 15% tariff, you could imagine prices going up 7.5%. But remember, one of the points of tariffs is that they go up not just on what's being imported, they also go up on domestic goods, the same goods, because once the imported price goes up 7.5% or 15% or whatever it goes up, a domestic manufacturer, and this is really the point of tariffs, or one of the points, domestic manufacturers say, well, I don't need to price my goods at 7.5% less than Toyota, so I'm going to raise my prices 7.5%, and prices go up for everybody who makes that particular good. And this is, what we've been arguing about now for a couple of years. Who's really paying these tariffs? And your correspondent, with all due respect, talked about the countries paying the tariffs, the exporting countries.
We're paying.
They don't pay the tariffs. We're paying the tariffs, whether it's our companies and lower profits or our consumers. This is coming out of the pockets, for the most part, at the end of the day, of Americans.
Which, again, is what people like you and economists across the world warned as these were thrown out there and floated.